So I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to chapter 10, which is circles. So you guys should all know what a circle is. We've talked about the shape of circles, finding the area of circles. So now we're going to introduce some words like the diameter, which you should know, radius, which you should also know, but chord, tangent, secant are kind of new words for us. So a circle in geometry in this chapter is going to have a dot in the center and a capital letter. And if you look here where it says circle, all points are equidistant from a given point, which is called the center. So all of the points are going to be the same distance from the center, which makes it a perfect circle. And the way we call it, or the way we name it, is we do like a dot with a circle around it, circle E. So that little period with a circle around it tells me it's circle, and the name of it is that center, circle E. The words that you should know are diameter and radius. Radius goes from the center to the side of the circle, whereas diameter goes from one end to the other, cutting through that center. So I give you the vocabulary definition here. A diameter is a segment that goes through the center with both endpoints on the circle. So it's important that it goes through the center. And we would call this diameter line FD. Whereas a radius is a segment with one endpoint on the center and the other endpoint on the circle. So you should know by now that it's half of the diameter. So this one we would call EC. This is also a radius, ED, and EF. Okay. The new words, the first word is chord. And what a chord is, it's pretty much a diameter, except it does not go through the center. So it is a segment whose endpoints are on the circle. The longest chord is the diameter. So my example is up here, and it is AB, or you can even call it BA, okay? Another chord would be my diameter FD. That is also a chord. However, since it goes through the center, that's the one chord that is called your diameter, okay? So this chord goes from one end point on the circle to another. If you notice above it is in purple, it says the word secant, and that's a line that intersects a circle at 2 points. So a secant continues through those points. So part of that secant is your chord, but it continues past the circle, so that's called a secant. This last one here is called your tangent, and if you look at the vocabulary definition, a line, segment, or array that intersects the circle at exactly 1 point. That point is called your point of tangency. So this tangent only hits the circle at 1 point, which this one hits at point G. So it could be a line, it could be a ray. This one happens to be a whole line. It could be a segment, but it only intersects at 1 point. All right. Flipping to the back, we talk about some angles, which we'll get into this a little bit later in chapter 10. Your central angle, it's an angle with a vertex. These are all vocabulary words from the beginning of the year. In the center of the circle. So this, like angle BCD, is a central angle. My vertex is that center point. If your arc length is less than 180 degrees, we call that a minor arc. So this one is less than 180, so this would be a minor arc. I could have also said AB, arc AB is a minor arc, it's less than 180. So this is what we call a little arc over it. A major arc would be greater than 180. And if you remember, circles are 360. So if it's more than half the circle, that's how you know it's either going to be, if it's more than half, that's a major arc. If it's less than half, or over here, it's going to be a minor arc. So the example I did is A, D, B. And you use 3 letters so that I know that I'm going from A to D to B. If I said A, B, D, that's only 180 degrees. But A, D, B is 180 plus that little extra, so it's a major arc. If it's exactly 180, like my example ABD was, then it's called a semicircle. So I think of minor arc similar to an acute angle. Instead of it being less than 90, it's less than 180. A major arc like an obtuse angle, except instead of it being greater than 90 degrees, it's greater than 180. And a semicircle is similar to a right angle, except again, we're talking about 180 because it's circles. Adjacent, we've learned about the word adjacent in the beginning of the year. Two arcs that have exactly 1 point in common. So like arc AB and arc BD, they share that point B. They are next to each other. That's what the word adjacent meant. And then going down to the bottom, the intercepted arc. It's an arc with two endpoints on the sides of the inscribed angle. So this angle here, an angle formed in the interior of the circle with two secants, so you notice it doesn't use the center. That's called an inscribed angle. And then the arc that it creates is your intercepted arc. So make sure you go ahead and review some of this as we go through the chapter.